important meeting every year at what used to be called the Africa Green Revolution Forum, now the Africa Food Systems Forum. This is the space where ministers talk with each other openly, constructively. They don't give prepared statements. It's a conversation, and it's a place where we look at how together we can move forward. It's unique. There's not a meeting like this anywhere else, and we are absolutely delighted. There are special guests joining us from all over the world, coming in from United Arab Emirates, from Norway and other places to add to the conversation. And we will try to make certain that every minister who's here gets a moment to speak. We'll try to keep it tight. And then we want some of the partners who are here to contribute as well. So without more ado, Fidel, please let's start the proceedings.
Thank you so much. So just get us started. Why are we here? What the vision? What is the expectation for you? Over to you, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Fidel. Esteemed Ministers of Agriculture, business leaders and AGRF partners, global financial and technical organizations. Good morning. I'm deeply honored to address a matter of paramount importance at the heart of our responsibilities, the nexus of food systems and climate change. As custodians of our nation's agricultural landscapes and stewards of our people's well-being, we bear a profound responsibility to navigate this critical intersection with wisdom, foresight, and collective resolve. Our agricultural and food systems, the lifeblood of our economies and the sustenance of our populations, are undeniably in tune with the Earth's changing climate. As we witness more frequent and severe weather events, shifting precipitation patterns, and rising temperatures, we must recognize the profound implications for food security, livelihoods, and environmental sustainability. The stark reality is that our current food systems are both a contributor to and a casualty of climate change. Agriculture is a significant source of greenhouse gas emissions, driven by practices that must evolve to curb the pace of global warming. Yet, in turn, our food production systems are profoundly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, from disrupted growing seasons and increased pest pressures to declining yields and compromised food quality. However, in the face of three challenges lies tremendous opportunity. Agriculture can be a powerful ally in the fight against climate change, and sustainable farming practice, agroforestry, precision agriculture, and climate-resilient crop varieties have the potential not only to mitigate emissions, but also enhance soil health, conserve our water and soil, and bolster the adaptive capacity of our farmers. Moreover, transforming our food systems is not solely an environmental imperative, but a moral one as well. It is about ensuring that no one in any corner of our nation goes to bed hungry. It is about safeguarding the livelihoods of the countless men and women who toil on our farms. It is about leaving a world for our children and grandchildren that's not scared by the consequences of our inaction. In your roles as ministers of agriculture and our partners, we have the privilege and the responsibility to drive change, inspire innovation, and forge alliances across borders and sectors. Let us harness the power of our positions as the political leaders to lead the transition towards sustainable, climate-resilient food systems that prioritize both people and the planet. As we gather today, I am confident that our collective expertise, determination, and commitment to the well-being of our nations will guide our discussions and actions. Together, we can ensure that agriculture is not only part of the climate problem, but also a vital component of the solution. Thank you for being so dedicated to this vital cause. Let us sow the seeds of a sustainable future for our food systems and world. Your Excellencies, we need your guidance how to go about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellence. With this few words, we'd like to ask our host minister from Tanzania to give us a welcoming address before. He's not here yet. Oh, all right. So on behalf. Sorry.
The minister is with the president on the use.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Good morning, honorable ministers. My name is David Ernest Silinde, Deputy Minister for Livestock and Fisheries, Deputy Minister for Agriculture. I've been appointed in this position just 5 days ago, so I'm very new to the ministry. I'm still learning to know how the ministry is working. Unfortunately, by the time I was appointed, I made the ministry were working very hard on the AGRF forum. So I came here on behalf of the ministry, Minister Honorable Hussein Bashe, who is with the president now on the youth forum. And he has just asked me to come here to say welcome, and I'll be here to listen all the comments, opinions from all over. And we can assure you that you will have all the support from our ministry. So what I should say, welcome, karibuni sana Tanzania. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellence. And thank you for setting the tone. We are all here to learn. And I think you are very lucky to have in this room all the expertise required to drive. We feel very welcome. Thank you. With that, I'd like to ask Madam Nados to make a statement as a co-chair of this session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, moderator, and good morning to everybody. I would like to recognize His Excellency Haile Mariam Desalegn, the former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, respected African. I would like to recognize also my predecessor, His Excellency Dr. Mayaki. I would like to recognize all those ministers that are here, my sister from the United Nations, my former colleague who is here, who is the Undersecretary General in charge of all African matters, you know, a very important position. Please, all, David, my former colleague also, oh my goodness, I see many former colleagues from the UN and other parts of my career. Thank you very much. And I would just like to reiterate what has been said. Today is not about, you know, talking about the causes, the problems, the challenges that we at our level think is already known. What we would like to see, Your Excellency, Prime Minister, is to hear from those actors, to hear from the ground what works, what has not worked, and really look at what are the things that we can do and what are the areas we can change and make that happen together collectively. So I don't want to say much. From Maputo to Malabo, the journey has been long, and there are so many things that have been promised but not fulfilled. So what's wrong? And how can we accelerate and redouble our efforts to make it happen? So, you know, I will stop here and I will intervene later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, madam. I think from Maputo to Malabo to Dakar, now to Tanzania, what happened, what progress, what didn't work, what can we learn from it? And to get us started, David, why don't you introduce our next speaker?
So I'm really delighted to introduce somebody who's already been mentioned by Nardos Bekele Thomas, her predecessor at the African Union Development Agency, and now the African Union Special Envoy on Food Systems, His Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki. He's going to set the scene for what we're going to be doing today. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Sir David Navarro. And let me recognize Prime Minister Ali Mariam, my dear sister Nardos, and all excellencies and ministers who are here present and partners. I will focus on 4 issues. The first issue will be about contextualization. When we talk today about food system transformation, we need to be aware of the context historically that has led us to where we are. And why are we referring to food systems, which is a concept sometimes not always easy to explain to policymakers. Academics use it quite a lot. Policymakers can use it in different manners. So the historical context started with Maputo 2003. African leaders decide to prioritize agricultural transformation amidst the resistances of the international community regarding the prioritization of agriculture. It's important to refer to that because it was a political determination that led to the Maputo Declaration in 2003, and which helped design CADEP, which is the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program. And the main aim of CADEP was to re-dynamize planning processes in the agriculture sector. But at that time, agriculture was looked at as one sector. And it led to what was called the compacts, and the compacts were the instruments that could help re-dynamize planning in the agriculture sector. So from 2003 to 2014, we evolved at the African Union level and at national level and even regional level from these national compacts to national agriculture investment plans. Because we realized that monosectoral compacts at the limit, they were not sufficiently integrating the role of the private sector. And this is why the compacts led the way to the construction of national agriculture investment plans. And when we arrived in Malabo in 2014, there is a review of the impact of the compacts and the impact of the national agriculture investment plans. And AGRA has played an important role in that journey, and I will refer to it later. Malabo is a precursor of food systems thinking. Why? Because Malabo opens to multi-sectorality. As a matter of fact, the Malabo Declaration is called food and nutrition security. So nutrition becomes an important part. But in addition to nutrition, the other issues come on board. Climate issues, land issues, transport issues, etc., infrastructure issues. So Malabo is a precursor. Africa started to think in terms of food systems before the United Nations Food Systems Summit. And we should also recognize that. And this is what helped, and then I move a little bit forward, this is what helped the design of a common African position on food systems before the first United Nations Food Systems Summit. And with a strong accent on adaptation and climate issues. So this is the journey, and this is where we are today. But the instruments we have today, having evolved We need to find a coherence between these instruments. And every agriculture minister here will understand what, and all of you evidently will understand what I mean. Because you have national agricultural investment plans. You have NDCs. You have the FDB Dakar Summit compacts, and you have the national pathways coming out of the food systems approach. So, in terms of processes and in terms of institutional coherence, these instruments need to be complementary, but beyond the complementarity, they need to have a systemic dimension. Otherwise, we might lose time and energy focusing in the implementation of one instrument and not focusing enough on the implementation of the other instruments. And we know currently that we are facing severe challenges. One of the challenges is with the acceleration of our population growth going to 2.x billion, we will need to start rethinking about the tools we have very quickly. Secondly, urbanization is accelerating also. By 2050, most of our population will live in cities, diets will have changed. That's a question to take into account. Our food import bill, according to FAO, is over 60 billion, some say 70 billion. It's not reducing. This is a huge problem that we are facing because these 60, 70 billions are coming out of the pockets of Africans, and they could find a way in investing in the domain. And then we have the issue of climate and the cost of inaction regarding climate. If I look at the numbers analyzed by AGRA, is over roughly around 100 billion per year. So instruments need to have a coherence, and systemic approach needs to insert all these instruments in a whole government approach. It can no longer be monosectoral or mono-institutional. So my last point is currently we are thinking about post-Malabo. And in post-Malabo, we know that two dimensions will be very important. The first one is how do we integrate all what is the ecosystem of cattle with all what is the ecosystem of PIDA, which is our AU framework on infrastructure, with trade. Because the solutions, the optimal solutions will come at regional level, not at national level. So if we think in terms of regional food baskets, we'll have irremediably to think in terms of how do we increase intra-Africa trade and how do we facilitate trade. And that will help us evidently reduce our import bill, our food import bill, and it will help us at the regional level think again systemically. So these are the issues I wanted to put on the table. Post-Malabo is, in terms of thinking, we are at the beginning of post-Malabo. Your inputs on the ground and the inputs of our partners are fundamental if we want to shape a post-Malabo that will help feed 2.5 billion Africans. I thank you.
Your Excellency, Haile Mariam, former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, thank you for giving me the slot to speak on this interesting ministerial roundtable. I also thank the organizers for giving me this floor, and I would like to recognize that it has been a very great few days in Dar es Salaam. We have learned a lot, and we have been deepening our collaboration with the existing partners and exploring new opportunities. Food systems transformation is an agenda of the government of Rwanda. We have intentionally prioritized it. For example, we are developing the 5th generation of our strategic plan for agricultural transformation that we call PSTF5. That will span from 2025 to 2030, which will be a food systems and resilience strategy. It will mainly aim at building a resilient and sustainable food systems in Rwanda. So this shows our strong government commitment to align the food systems agenda with the national policies and strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, recognizing the centrality of partnerships and a multi-sectoral approach in food systems, we have committed to work closely with all partners, including private sector, development partners, through a well-established already agriculture sector working group that we meet government and development partners who are operating in the agriculture sector in Rwanda. So as well as farmers organizations and civil society, and we want to ensure a holistic and integrated food systems and a resilience strategy. For a vantage point, I note that there are currently many innovations that are being developed across the food system from improved seed and the soil health innovations to solar irrigations and biogas, to insect proteins for animal feed, to biopesticides, to designing a food innovation hub centers, for example, the upcoming Kigali Food Campus, and more. I would like to take this opportunity to extend an invitation for those who are willing to partner with us on this journey, and the doors are open for a mutual beneficial partnership. So in addition to the opportunities raised before, there are also ongoing initiatives by the government and its partners that will strengthen the national food system, such as the Crop Intervention Program, Universal School Meals, reduction of food loss and waste, and the climate smart initiatives such as conservation, agriculture, among others. As I end my reflections, as you are getting close to me, as promised, I would like to emphasize that the key to realizing the sustainable food system will depend on the effectiveness of the coordination mechanism in place. Rwanda is leveraging existing coordination systems while adapting them to the new reality and the evolving challenges to our food systems. I thank you for your attention and collaboration.
Thank you, Your Excellency. You don't allow me to come closer, but thank you. I like 3 keywords you said: coordination, adaptation, and political will. With that, I'll go to your neighbor, my brother the minister from Ghana. Now, remind you, we want to know what are the 3 things you achieved as part of your own food transformation agenda. What didn't work? What did you learn that will take you to the next level? 3 minutes, my brother.
Thank you so much, and good morning to everyone. For want of time, I will say all protocols are duly observed. And I'm sitting here on behalf of my minister. The name here, Honorable Brian Champon, is a substantive minister. I am the deputy minister, and I thank you all for giving me this opportunity. And I'm representing our president and our minister here. Yes, the food systems transformation. Thank you so much. The food systems transformation that we are all discussing here. Ghana has taken a policy initiative starting from 2017 when we initiated the Planting for Food and Jobs, because we knew that a time was coming that if countries did not take proactive measures, we were going to be caught between the devil and the deep blue sea in terms of food security. So what we did was to re-examine our food situation in Ghana, cultivation methods and all that. So we introduced this planting for food and jobs. We realized that over the years in our country, the smallholder farmers had fed the country, and because of lack of some knowledge and in technology and all that, we realized that the yield per acre was going down seriously and population was increasing. So we said, look, let us revamp that sector. But what did we do? We introduced the same smallholder farmers into improved seeds, fertilizers, and extension services for the smallholder farmer to improve his yield. We implemented the policy, planting for food and jobs, for 5-6 years. We realized that, yes, Ghana had not had any problem of food shortages. We had food security and all that. But then we didn't have enough buffer so that in case of any emergency anywhere, we're going to be found wanting. So we had a good review of that project, the program. We had a good review of it, and we had serious stakeholder consultations involving almost every stakeholder that you can think of in Ghana. And we came out with what we call the Planting for Food and Jobs Phase 2. And this Phase 2 has 3 key pillars. One, to move from smallholder farmer to commercial farming, of course, leveraging on whatever the smallholder farmer has done. And then the second one was to move from input subsidy to input credits. And this one, we call it in Ghana, all you need is your land. And through the aggregator system and the supply chain system, we are going to provide inputs to everybody who is interested in agriculture. And here we are talking about even our partners in government, that is the legislature. There is a policy, this is an all-inclusive policy that is going to involve everybody in there, including our legislators, that when you get your land, just approach us and we'll provide you everything for you to become a farmer. And also we are leveraging on the new technology, mechanized agriculture. We've listed 11 crops and poultry, because that is where we spend a lot of money importing into the country. And this policy is supposed to reduce the importation of these items considerably. Poultry, for example. So to round up, we are saying that there is a new all-inclusive policy in Ghana that will ensure food security and also to reduce the importation of our goods involving everybody, so that the food security situation in Ghana will be improved.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I mean, I know planting for food and job was a big undertaking. Summarizing it 3 words is a big challenge, but you did it. Key word is moving from subsidy to credit. That's a concept I would like to explore later. Now let me come to our honorable from Ethiopia. Same question, sir. What did Ethiopia achieve as part of your own commitment that we are very proud of? Where are the challenges? What will take you to the next level? In 3 minutes also, sir.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank to have this for having this opportunity. I think the food system could be addressed if politicians are committed, because everything, all the enablers are at the hand of the politicians. It needs infrastructure, it needs finance, it needs skill, because African food system has a lot of challenges, starting from soil productivity, skill of the farmers, the climate, the fertilizer, the market, and finance issue. So if politicians are committed enough, then the issue of food system will be addressed. This is because the issue of production and the productivity. Without having all these enablers, there will not be any improvement in productivity and the production as a whole. So what we did is the homegrown economic reform that gives special attention for 3 sectors, especially for agriculture, manufacturing industry, mining, ICT, and tourism. So we try to see all in an inclusive way, because unless we are addressing all the issues holistically, end to end, from the farm up to the consumption, so there will not be improvement in agricultural transformation as well as in industrialization. So what we did is a policy improvement in all the sector that will enhance production and productivity. So we invested huge amount of money in agro-industry parks. The issue of this agro-industry park is intentionally done because every stakeholder has to be devoted in supporting smallholder farmers as well as the private sector so as to enhance the production and productivity of the smallholder farmers. And this brings a very significant change for the last 5 years. We registered 6.4 GDP growth for the last 5 years consequently. So I really recommend the commitment of the policymakers in terms of supporting the private sector, in terms of supporting the infrastructure and finance and all in the enablers. And finally, I would like to recommend the safety. Trading is very important. Trade and investment is very crucial. And this should be done in collaboration, in an integrated way, and in cooperation. Without cooperation, collaboration, and integration, there will not be any significant change in Africa. We do have a lot of potential, but we are not utilizing that potential. We will not staying long with our potential unless and otherwise we are utilizing. We are exporting raw material to the other continents. That means we are exporting our employment opportunity and we are promoting migration unless and otherwise we are adding value here in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, brother. I think very amazing keywords. I take good note of policy innovation, agro-industrial park, linking sector, going back to the Doyen Mayaki was telling us, and finally linking, giving opportunity to smallholder farmers. Thank you so much. Now, we're navigating from the east and the Horn of Africa to the north of Africa. His Excellence from Egypt. So, sir, we'll be really delighted. Good to have you here. What will be the key achievement from your point of view in terms of your commitment to the food system? What didn't work? I'd like to hear that. And then how can we all learn from it so that it gets us to the next level? Thank you, sir.
شكرا جزيلا لتحت الفرصة لنا على الحديث في هذا المنتدى. شكرا جزيلا. في البداية بوجه الشكر لحضراتكم، بوجه الشكر طبعا للحكومة التنزانية على استضافتها هذه القمة. لكن في البداية اسمحوا لي ان انا يعني اقول ان الازمات المتتالية والمتصارعة اثرت كتير على موضوع الامن الغذائي، واصبحت مشكلة الامن الغذائي اعتقد انكم كلكم تتفقوا معايا ان اصبحت مشكلة ليست اقتصادية وزراعية فحسب، بل تخطت ذلك لاصبحت مسألة استراتيجية ترتبط بالامن القومي والامن الاقليمي. زي ما قال زملائي كده القارة الافريقية مليئة بالموارد، لكن التحدي الرئيسي في القارة الافريقية ان احنا هذه الموارد الطبيعية غير مستغلة بالقدر الكافي يعني. ولذلك نجد ان الامر في افريقيا باعتبارنا اكثر القارات تأثرا بالتغيرات المناخية، رغم ان مساهمة القارة الافريقية في التغيرات المناخية تكاد تكون نسبة لا تذكر. ولذلك ارى من وجهة نظري ان مسألة بناء أنظمة زراعية وغذائية مستدامة في القارة الإفريقية لابد أن يدعمها توفير التمويل المحفز والميسر من قبل الدول الكبرى التي سببت في التغيرات المناخية وأيضا من كل شركاء التنمية. علينا أيضا في أفريقيا أن نجهز البنية اللوجستيات ونزيد من دعم صغار المزارعين ودعم أصحاب الحيازات الصغيرة. على صعيد الدولة المصرية يمكن خدت مجموعة من البرامج لبناء أنظمة زراعية وغذائية مستدامة، كان أهمها التوسع في المشروعات القومية واستنباط أصناف حديثة، أيضا إطلاق مشروع قومي لترشيد استخدام المياه واستخدام النظم الحديثة، أيضا تدعيم التحول إلى نظم الغذاء والاهتمام بالتغذية المدرسية وبرامج صحة الأطفال، وتم الانضمام إلى التحالف الدولي للتغذية المدرسية. أيضا تم تدشين المشروع القومي للصوامع مع رفع كفاءة المعامل الدولية، وأيضا تم إنشاء مركزين للتميز. في البداية اسمحوا لي أن أنا بشكركم جميعا.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
It's okay.
we can't work out the interpretation, so just give us a couple of minutes and then I will ask the gentleman to explain how it works. It is apparently working on Channel 5, so let's try again.
يعني في البداية اسمحوا لي أن أنا أقدم كل الشكر والتقدير
La traduction, j'espère que ça marche pour le français. Je voudrais tout d'abord vous remercier pour cette... It's okay? Ok. Merci. Je voudrais donc vous remercier pour cette invitation. Et je voudrais peut-être partager avec vous le cas du Sénégal. Le Sénégal importe plus de la moitié de ses produits alimentaires. J'ai été nommé ministre de l'Agriculture, de l'Équipement rural et de la Souveraineté alimentaire en septembre 2022. Donc vous comprenez déjà que c'était après la survenance de certains événements comme la COVID-19. Le Sénégal importe plus de la moitié de ses besoins en riz et le Sénégal est un grand consommateur de riz. Le Sénégal importe pratiquement 100% de ses besoins en blé et le Sénégal importe plus du tiers de ses besoins en maïs. Donc vous comprenez naturellement que les conséquences de la COVID-19, de la guerre en Ukraine, des changements climatiques puissent effectivement affecter le quotidien des Sénégalais. La souveraineté alimentaire de notre pays n'est plus optionnelle. Elle constitue une super priorité. Nous avons, pour faire face à ces situations, à relever plusieurs défis. Le premier défi, c'est un défi infrastructurel. Nous devons aménager plus de terres et nous devons également avoir une politique de maîtrise de l'eau. Nous devons également engager une forte mécanisation de nos systèmes agricoles. Nous devons faciliter l'accès aux intrants à nos agriculteurs, que ce soit les semences ou les fertilisants. Nous devons également organiser nos producteurs, mais nous devons surtout mettre en place un système de financement adapté pour l'agriculture dans notre pays. Le financement de l'agriculture, l'absence de financement de l'agriculture constitue un frein qui empêche aujourd'hui le privé à venir dans le secteur. Quand vous entendez financement agricole dans notre pays et peut-être dans d'autres, en général, on ne parle que de campagne agricole, c'est-à-dire des financements court terme, alors que le privé a besoin d'être accompagné pour faire des financements long terme. Pour aller vite, lorsque nous avons été à ce secteur, le président de la République nous avait chargé de mettre en place une stratégie de souveraineté alimentaire pour faire face donc, à ces défis et faire de sorte que dans les années à venir, que le Sénégal puisse être autosuffisant dans plusieurs secteurs. C'est ainsi que nous avons mis en place une stratégie de souveraineté alimentaire dont le coût est estimé à 8,5 milliards de dollars, qui devrait nous permettre, à l'horizon 2028, donc dans 5 ans, d'être autosuffisant en riz, autosuffisant en maïs, produisant plus de 40% de nos besoins en blé, produisant également au moins plus de 30% de nos besoins en huile végétale. Le Sénégal a abrité le sommet de Dakar 2, après Dakar 1 en 2015, où il y avait plus de 34 pays africains et chefs d'État qui étaient venus. Et à l'issue donc de cette séance, la BAD s'est engagée à financer sur ces 8,5 milliards de besoins 1 milliard d'euros, ce qui est également un bon début. Mais il nous reste encore à chercher pratiquement 8 milliards de dollars. Mais déjà, nous avons cette année fait un grand pas. Et c'est sur ça surtout que je vais insister parce que nous sommes convaincus que c'est possible. Et le gouvernement du Sénégal a mis, dès 2023, un financement de 300 millions de dollars. 300 millions de dollars, dont pratiquement 160 millions pour la campagne agricole en cours et 140 millions pour l'acquisition de matériel agricole. Déjà, qui a commencé à venir depuis janvier. Déjà, pour le matériel agricole, nous allons acquérir d'ici la fin de l'année 800 tracteurs et 100 moissonneuses-batteuses. Ça nous permet de récolter le riz. Il faut peut-être également envisager même le programme avec les agropoles pour la transformation. Déjà, hier, les 100 moissonneuses-batteuses sont arrivées au port de Dakar. Ça, c'est déjà important comme pas que nous avons eu à faire pour montrer l'engagement du chef de l'État. Nous avons également, au cours de ce programme de 160 millions de dollars, engagé un programme spécial de production de maïs sur 25 000 hectares avec de la semence hybride que nous avons achetée donc, de la Côte d'Ivoire pour pouvoir améliorer donc, la production de maïs. Il est également important que je souligne la relation que nous avons mise en place avec l'Égypte depuis la COP27. J'en profite pour remercier le ministre de l'Agriculture qui est là, qui nous a aidés, parce qu'au départ, au Sénégal, nous ne produisions pas de blé. Moi, j'ai considéré que nous avions des conditions pour le faire et j'ai pris le risque, après la COP27 avec mon homologue égyptien, qui nous a donné de la semence que j'ai embarquée avec moi-même et j'ai testé sur des sites différents au Sénégal qui a fait des résultats. Et nous allons déjà, dès novembre, envisager de le faire au niveau donc, du Sénégal à une échelle plus grande. J'ai également engagé des plantations de palmeraies pour que dans un horizon de 4 à 5 ans, qu'on puisse faire face à la production d'huile de palme. Voilà les actions concrètes qui ont été faites par le Sénégal. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le ministre. J'hésitais à venir plus proche de vous parce que vous disiez des choses importantes. Mais on prend bonne note de la volonté politique, mais aussi vous avez mis la main à la poche. Vous faites des investissements, aménagements, maîtrise de l'eau, nouvelles technologies. Nous prenons bonne note. Je note le riz, parce qu'ensuite je vais aller à mon frère de la Gambie. Quels sont les efforts qui sont en train d'être faits en matière de souveraineté alimentaire et de sécurité alimentaire, mais aussi l'autre question que le doyen Maya qui nous a posée. How do we make sure that we deal with the rice sufficiency issue at the right level? Can each country be self-sufficient, or what are the mechanisms for achieving this goal at the regional level? So, Excellence, maybe we can, in 3 minutes, building on what he said, and I'll go to Sierra Leone after you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Haile Mariam, and our host, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture for the United Republic of Tanzania, colleague ministers here. Like he rightly said, whether food self-sufficiency, specifically rice self-sufficiency, is achievable nationally without a regional focus, it's going to be a challenge, especially for countries in the western part of Africa. A country like the Gambia, our food system is at the center of our recovery-focused national development plan, and of course is part of our Gambia National Investment Plan. And all this is driven by a multi-sectoral approach, both food and non-food actors. And rice self-sufficiency within the context of Senegal and Gambia and the region, it must have a regional context because of our traditional connections, because of our porous borders, and because of our long history. In fact, I think in Togo, when we had the Ministerial roundtable on fertilizer, one of the approaches there was to make fertilizer transboundary. And I think naturally, most countries here, either our food or fertilizer is naturally transboundary. So approach to rice self-sufficiency in our part of the world must have a regional take, because a national look will not be sufficient because of the natural boundaries that we have, that countries are so intertwined. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You didn't even wait until I come. Thank you. Yeah. Now, can I ask you to hold for a minute? I want to come to Sierra Leone. Let me travel to Uganda and Mozambique and then come back to West Africa. So, David, you want to? No.
Thank you very much indeed. So we're coming over to this corner, and I'm going first to Fred Kaya Kluaga, and I'm very grateful to you for being here. 3 minutes, and please build on what the other colleagues have said. After you've spoken, we go to Honorable Olegario Anjos Banze from Mozambique. So, Honorable Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, honorable colleagues, the ministers, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you greetings from the Republic of Uganda. And Uganda, just like most of the African countries, is still suffering from similar challenges. Our food system, our agriculture sector is still suffering from the same issues of little mechanization, dependence on rain rather than on irrigation, use of traditional seed systems, little availability and use of fertilizer and pesticides, and so on and so forth. And the government of Uganda is trying to implement as many interventions as possible to try and reverse that situation. However, for purposes of this discussion this morning, I want to share one game-changing intervention that the government of Uganda is implementing, and this is the extension of agricultural credit to Ugandan farmers through a grant of about 100,000 US dollars to each of the 10,000 administrative units that we call parishes in Uganda, in the form of micro banks, very small banks at that level. So we have 10,000 small banks in Uganda, and the government has extended about $100,000 to each of them. Now, the small banks extend credit to the individual farmers, and so far, our target is 4 million farmers. We have already started the disbursements to these farmers, and we have advised the farmers to utilize this money to buy inputs for their agriculture activities. To us, we think this is a game changer. And we think that this is going to spur production and it will improve the food systems of our country.
Thank you so much, Your Excellence. Thank you for giving us a game changer, reminding what the game is, making sure that farmers have access to input, to technology, to finance with support from government. Well said. Now let me move to my brother from Mozambique.
Thank
3
you.
minutes, we spoke about it before.
I will speak in Portuguese.
All right.
O meu
Let's make
país,
sure that the interpretation exists, just so that we don't, because after we go
to be sure.
Is it working? Okay.
Sim, o meu país, desde 2021, a quando da preparação da realização da Cimeira das Nações Unidas para Sistemas Alimentares, tem estado engajado cada vez mais para a integração dos pequenos produtores, small orders, em cadeias de valor, e também desenvolveu um percurso nacional para a transformação dos sistemas alimentares. E neste contexto, as ações do nosso país têm o seu enquadramento nos grandes programas internacionais, com destaque para os Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável, a Agenda 2063 da União Africana, o Programa Compreensivo para o Desenvolvimento da Agricultura em África, que é o CADAP, e também as declarações de Maputo e de Malabo. Nisto temos a destacar alguns avanços no país, nomeadamente o estabelecimento de incentivos fiscais, incluindo a redução de barreiras comerciais com vista à promoção do investimento privado e aceleração da economia. O nosso sistema fiscal adotou um sistema para a redução do imposto sobre valor acrescentado de 17% para 16%. Isentamos completamente a importação de equipamentos agrícolas e insumos agrícolas para zero, completamente, e também reduzimos os impostos sobre as pessoas coletivas, que são as empresas corporativas, de 32% para 10% no setor da agricultura e da aquacultura. Nós também aprovamos um plano estratégico de desenvolvimento do setor da agricultura, aprovamos um plano de investimento para o setor da agricultura e também temos vivenciado uma diplomacia econômica liderada pelo próprio presidente da República de Moçambique, mas em termos de melhoria substantiva, o que temos visto é que aumentou significativamente a exportação de alguns produtos, como a feijão boer, pigeon pea and sesame, e também os relatórios da FAO já tiraram Moçambique da lista vermelha dos países com insegurança alimentar. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado. Thank you so much, Your Excellence.
Obrigado.
And I will just travel back quickly to West Africa, to Sierra Leone, then come to Egypt. Over to you, sir.
What was the question again?
3 achievements, 1 big challenge, but lesson to get to the next level.
All right, good.
I'm sure you can do it in 2 minutes.
I will try. Thank you, Fidel. Excellencies, good morning. Really great to be here. I just wanted to comment first on the rice self-sufficiency in the region. I think for all those regions, the countries in the region, whether it's Sierra Leone, Gambia, Guinea, rice is the main staple there, and it drives a lot of, there's a lot of politics behind it as well. And when we live in a day and age where there's an export ban or a tax on exports for that, it makes governments want to take it as a sovereignty issue, which I think we all can understand. And it's easier, our principles, the president, because the political drive behind it, it's easier to sell it that way. And then even as we'll begin to look at where are the trade-offs or how we work regionally so that, we're producing enough for the region and each country is doing their bit, there are opportunities to also learn from that as well. Makes it easier to sell and to get buy-in from our presidents that are very politically minded when it comes to these issues. To your question, really the last 3 years, 4 now, Sierra Leone, because in response to the emergency, really put a number of measures in place where we learned quite a lot and achieved some good results that we want to build on for the next 5 years. The first thing we did was to establish an e-voucher system to give agricultural inputs to smallholder farmers. This was a response to quickly give our seeds, fertilizers, so that farmers can cultivate land, produce enough so we have food locally, as we were threatened by closures, limitations of supply chain networks during the COVID era. In addition to that was a mechanization credit facility, mechanization centers that were set up all across the country, 15 of them, so that more land can be put under cultivation. Then there was a credit facility that was set up for private sector to actually invest in input for the rice subsector. That was actually quite good at the time when we set it up. We didn't even know that the way it was set up, the facility, the private sector applies through their commercial banks, get their invoice, the central bank pays for those inputs directly to the suppliers. The private sector people paid back in leones, paid in dollars, paid in leones. By the time they were paying back, we had experienced a huge devaluation in currency. So that de-risking, we didn't even foresee, but it became a very important thing for us. Now, we did all of that. There's also a massive school feeding program that we undertook. We did all of that in the guise of emergency, which means there's a missed opportunity in really pushing and laying the groundwork. So going forward, for example, in school feeding, we want that to be homegrown school feeding. At the institutional level, the president has decided for the next 5 years, agriculture and food system is a key thing that he's going to push. He set up a presidential initiative on energy, climate, and food security, knowing the nexus and how to drive that. And there's a presidential council specifically on food systems, so that he drives the initiatives that we want to do. We think with that buy-in and the lessons we've gotten from what we did during the COVID era, we can really push to make some impact in the space.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you for the education in political economy of how do you manage national and regional. I think it's very important to understand the pressure from national government to do things while exploring the opportunity to optimize at the regional level. Thank you very much. Now with that, David.
So everybody, the interpretation system let us down when we came to Egypt before, but we're going to try again. It should come through in English on channel 5. And I think most of you have got your, if you're listening in English, you've got channel 5 working. And so, Honourable Minister, could we start again, please? Shukran, thank you very much indeed.
مرة أخرى بشكر حضراتكم جميعا يعني طبعا، وبشكر إتاحة الفرصة لي للحديث في هذا الأمر. يعني لو سمحتوا في البداية إن احنا بنقول إن قضية الأمن الغذائي أصبحت قضية محورية، وتخطت من مسألة قضية اقتصادية وزراعية إلى مسألة استراتيجية بترتبط بالأمن القومي والإقليمي للدول. مسألة تانية إن أفريقيا لديها موارد هائلة ضخمة، لكن استغلالها ليس بالقدر المطلوب، وعلى ذلك نجد وعلينا أن نبحث جميعا في آلية تعظيم الاستفادة من هذه الموارد. It's okay?
At the risk of being diplomatically incorrect, sir, I'm sure you speak English. Could you give us a high-level summary of what the gist of your message is, so that we don't lose the opportunity? Otherwise, the system is not working there. Yeah, just a high-level summary. Yeah, sure.
Going to translate for His Excellency.
But once again now, because of everything you understand, please don't read.
Yeah.
Summarize for us.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll try our best.
All right, thank you.
Okay. His Excellency wants to welcome all of you, and thanks for the give his sincere thanks for the invitation to attend such a nice meeting. And he said that the food security issue has become like the global-wide issues, and as African nations, we should face together and in order to solve all the related and integrated issues, which is actually in a way or another communicated or connected to the food security. So definitely. تفضل كمل. هذا اوكي should I complete it?
بالإجراءات اللي خدتها الدولة المصرية هي مسألة التوسع الأفقي والتوسع الرأسي.
And if you in Egypt we have taken different measures. One is on vertical levels and on the horizontal levels.
إطلاق البرنامج القومي لترشيد استخدام المياه.
We have launched our national program for water saving.
الاهتمام ببرامج التغذية المدرسية وتدعيم.
We also we were very much interested to give some programs for the children and to protect our children.
تدعيم أنظمة الإنذار المبكر.
To support the global warming issue.
أيضا الاهتمام بمشروعات الاقتصاد الأخضر.
To also support for the green area and Green Deal projects.
إطلاق برنامج حماية اجتماعية كريمة وأيضا حماية اجتماعية لأفريقيا.
We have launched our national program for to protect our society.
الخلاصة ان احنا يعني لتدعيم بناء الأنظمة في افريقيا محتاجين يعني تدعيم برامج التمويل الميسر والمحفز، ونأمل في الكوب 28 أن نجد آليات لتحفيز هذا التمويل.
In order to come to the point, we need to integrate between each other as African nations, but at the same time we should search for the financial issue.
نأمل الالتزام المجتمع الدولي.
We also hope to have the worldwide commitment.
مرة أخرى بشكركم جميعا.
Once again, I thank you all.
No, excellent. Thank you very much. And we want to appreciate the testimony from Honorable Minister from Senegal on the cooperation framework that you are offering to other countries. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce Honorable Mamadou Saliou Lamba, who is the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Rural Development from the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. He will speak in Portuguese, but if you are listening in English, and it will come through on Channel 5, if you're listening in want to listen in Arabic, it should work on Channel 25, and then the other languages are French Channel 6 and Portuguese Channel 7. Now, if you need help to find out how to change the channel, please put your hand up with your little blue device and one of our colleagues will come and help you. Sorry about this. We're not as organized as we should be on the interpretation. Minister, you have the floor. We'd like you to...
Okay, thank you. Well, you know, we have to speak in Portuguese because it's that our language, is that what we dominate. Muito obrigado. Bom dia a todos. Estou grato por estar aqui presente hoje a representar o meu país, que é Guiné-Bissau. Como sabem, situado na costa ocidental africana, junto de Senegal e Gâmbia e Guiné-Conakry. É para dizer que nós agradecemos profundamente às autoridades da Tanzânia por esta magnífica organização e, em particular, a organização que organizou esse fórum de uma forma muito sábia. O que temos a dizer é que a Guiné-Bissau é um país altamente fértil e disponível para receber os investimentos. Neste momento tem incentivos amplos e diversificados para a agricultura na Guiné-Bissau. Aliás, o nosso líder imortal, Amílcar Lopes Cabral, dizia que a agricultura é o nosso petróleo, é o nosso diamante, ou seja, é o nosso fundo para o desenvolvimento da Guiné-Bissau. Daí que apelamos a todos que venham e participem na agricultura para o desenvolvimento e o bem-estar do povo guinense. Por outro lado, para dizer que nós queremos lançar aqui um repto de pedir às autoridades africanas que organizemos uma forma unida, ou seja, troca de sinergias e de experiências, porque se cada um tiver do seu lado, torna muito difícil o desenvolvimento da agricultura, porque a agricultura hoje exige muito dinheiro e a Guiné-Bissau, como um país com suas limitações, apela à integração e à solidariedade dos países, porque só assim, no nosso ver, que a Guiné-Bissau e outros países podem desenvolver rapidamente. Como sabem, que mais uma vez agradecemos às autoridades senegalesas, na pessoa do seu ministro, e às autoridades de Egito, que têm apoiado a Guiné-Bissau muito para o desenvolvimento da sua agricultura. Sem mais delongas, agradecemos e esperemos que brevemente possamos reencontrar o nosso fórum para o bem da África. Obrigado.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the meeting is set up so that we hear first from African ministers, then we invite ministers from other parts of the world who wish to make comments. And so I'm just asking, is there any African minister who would wish to speak who has not done so? The minister from Burundi is going to speak. Vous avez la parole. On est tout le monde en 3 minutes. Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Pas même 3 minutes, voire même moins. Merci beaucoup de m'accorder la parole. Moi, je suis le ministre de l'Agriculture, de l'Élevage et de l'Environnement du Burundi. Et je dis merci pour cette opportunité, pour que je puisse parler de mon pays dans le cadre des systèmes alimentaires durables. Et pour le Burundi, les systèmes alimentaires durables, c'est vraiment une préoccupation qui a fait que des politiques sont développées pour pouvoir réaliser cet objectif. Pour un peu plus d'informations, c'est un pays qui était réputé autosuffisant en termes de production alimentaire parce que l'économie du pays est basée surtout sur l'agriculture qui donne 40% du PIB et occupe 80% de la population, fournit de la main-d'œuvre et fournit également 80% des devises, sans oublier que 90% des apports alimentaires sont fournis par le secteur agricole. Mais avec l'évolution des temps, l'augmentation de la population, mais aussi les changements climatiques, nous observons qu'il y a un petit décalage qui s'installe déjà. 20% des consommations sont importées aujourd'hui. Et parmi les défis qu'on observe, c'est surtout les effets ou impact des changements climatiques qui entraînent le risque de perturbation des saisons agricoles et ainsi la diminution de la production. Un autre défi est lié au marché des intrants agricoles, que ce soit pour les fertilisants, mais aussi pour les semences. Et un troisième défi qui est observé, c'est le problème d'accès au marché et pour les productions agricoles. Donc l'infrastructure du marché qui manque et qui entraîne des pertes post-récolte. Et comme stratégie, les stratégies qui sont mises en place aujourd'hui, il y a d'abord le développement du système d'irrigation pour pouvoir contrer les effets des changements climatiques en cas de perturbation des saisons. Et également, il y a une politique de subvention des intrants pour que les petits agriculteurs puissent bénéficier des intrants nécessaires, mais aussi l'encouragement des intellectuels et des jeunes pour qu'ils s'intéressent à la production agricole. Dans ce sens, une banque spécialement créée pour les jeunes, pour accès au crédit au sein de la jeunesse, a été créée il y a 5 ans. Et également une banque pour les femmes, parce qu'au Burundi, la plupart des producteurs agricoles, ce sont des jeunes et des femmes. Des banques ont été créées dans ce sens. Également, il y a eu la création d'un programme spécial pour aider les jeunes à commencer les investissements, surtout dans le secteur de l'agriculture. Et depuis qu'on a mis en place tous ces mécanismes, nous voyons qu'il y a un léger mieux, qu'il y a une amélioration dans le sens de la réalisation d'un système alimentaire qui soit prometteur et qui est durable. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. Well, I don't know about everybody else here, but having listened to these remarks from all the ministers and the precision and at the same time the clarity of what we've heard, and comparing with the challenges that Dr. Mayaki gave us at the beginning, I am very excited. I mean, there are really big challenges in this continent, particularly the reality that so much food has to be imported, and yet productivity can and should increase. But then to increase productivity in the midst of this accelerating climate change is really insanely difficult. And so we're all focusing on how to adapt food systems so that they cope with the uncertain future of climate change. There's a lot of focus on financing, and we've heard about how new financial instruments are being created, some with support from partners. There's a lot of focus on engaging with the private sector. And I'd like to acknowledge that there are many private sector leaders in this room who are eager to be part of this emergence of a new approach to food systems in this continent. There's focus on nutrition and health, of course, because that's what food systems are about. And it's been delightful to see that emphasis in your remarks. There's focus on engaging young people. This is a young continent, and there is so much to be done to make sure that young people are ready to engage in food systems on their terms. There's focus on the reality that 70 to 80% of the people working in food systems are women. And we just heard from Burundi how special systems are being created for them to be able to access through the banking sector. And engaging farmers. I know from working with many of your people that you've done so much to engage farmers and involve them in the dialogues on the future of food systems. But it's tough. The devaluation that you've had to go through, the challenges of increased import bills, all create difficulties, and that's where regional solidarity really matters. And we've heard numerous examples of just how important that solidarity is. Fidel and I are now going to invite some of the other ministers present to make their remarks and to reflect on what we've heard. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, David. I think one thing I would like to hear more of is women in SMEs and agribusiness. I'm sure we're doing it. I think this is an opportunity to highlight the effort in this area. So we'd like to invite His Excellency, the Minister of Norway, to share with us what they are doing to deal with the similar challenge. What is your pathway? What levers? How do you relate to the narrative that we just heard in this room? Your Excellency.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and it's an honor to be here and address these issues. Thank you so much for giving me the floor. I think we are all aware of the fact that there has never been a better moment to invest in African agriculture. However, we are also aware of the complexity of the sector, and I think we have seen way too many examples of how, for example, we have invested from a donor perspective in elements in the value chains, for example, in increasing productivity for small-scale farmers, while not at the same time addressing other elements of the value chain. So we have ended up with disappointment because we have achieved our goal of increased productivity. However, there has not been investments in infrastructure, cool chains, markets to hand off and actually get money in your pocket. So we need to have a common plan and make sure that we address the complexity of the whole value chain at once. I believe that from a donor perspective, ODA can do this much, but we can do something. We can, for example, alleviate some of the risk for private sector. And from my point of view, I see a very forward-leaning private sector all over the world, eager to invest, but they might need some risk reduction to take the full leap. We are ready to assist on that, and there are many, many guarantee mechanisms growing there like mushrooms, but we need the coordination, and that is your job as ministers of agriculture and governments of Africa. May I also add one additional point, because of course the investments in small-scale farmers is very important from my perspective as Minister of Norway. We need to make sure that everyone is on board on this journey. And that takes me to climate finance. We are on the run-up to COP. We are discussing climate finance. We need to make sure that all countries deliver on their pledges on not only climate finance, but finance to adaptation. And we need to make sure that adaptation money comes down on the ground to individual farmers. So please, we must help each other to get the mechanisms where this money actually gets to the individual farmer. I feel that there is still a way to go on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellence, and thank you for insisting on the huge opportunity around climate finance. We have many partners in this room who are working in this area, and I'm sure that we will really bring our best practices together and see how we can support what your colleague, fellow ministers are doing in Africa. Now, with that, I know you have to go, but we wanted to hear the story of the United Arab Emirates. What did you hear that relates to what you're doing over there, and what are the opportunities to do even further synergy across? Over to you, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pablo. Thank you, David, for getting us together here and keeping the energy on. My fellow colleagues, ministers, first of all, thank you for all your inputs that you've given us. As you know, we've got less than 90 days to COP, but let me give you some good news. Food systems and agriculture is in the heart of the COP agenda. And this really came from the momentum built up from Egypt, COP27, but we've really built up this momentum. And as many of you know, I announced in July in the Food Systems +2 Summit a framework. And my colleague from Norway actually mentioned a common plan. Let me just highlight for you this framework. It's really important you understand why we put this framework together, because this came out of all the consultations we had with all of you. Number one, I need you all as ministers to please guide your presidents to ensure that they come on board on the leaders' declaration. Number one is going to be about getting the political will going. If you can all convince your presidents, yes, we must sign on board the leaders' declaration, we've got the great momentum going. Number two, it's about engaging the non-state actors. And as David and Fadel said, there's so many non-state actors here that want to help, that have also access to funding, that have access to innovations. We need to get them on board. Number three, it's about innovations. I can tell you, as a country that has no water, I say water scarcity, we have no rivers, we have very little rain. Maybe you can count 4 to 5 days in a year that we have rain. But we've managed to grow food. How? We looked at innovations, closed system farms. And by the way, these don't have to be expensive. They can be low tech. It goes all the way up to high tech, yes, but you can have low tech. We're now growing berries, strawberries. Our farmers are looking at new crops. And the innovation is key. And I tell you, I look back now 3-4 years. As a government official, you have to enable the policies. I have now 200 ag tech companies in the UAE. And then the fourth is about scaling up finance. I don't know if you saw, the UAE has stepped up. We want to lead by example. On the renewable energy space, we've now made available $4.5 billion for Africa for the renewable energy space. So we're telling African nations, please, partner with us on the framework of food systems transformation, partner with us on platforms like Aim for Climate, which we're leading with the US, partner with us on Mangrove Alliance for Climate. When you partner, you have insights to innovations and you have more access to finance. Thank you.
This time I came close because I would like you to repeat the commitment. How many billion again? Say it again.
Wow.
$4.5 billion. Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
And
Very
you
cool.
mentioned innovation. The gentleman next to you is
Okay,
Thank you so
great.
much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there is something very important just been said, and I want to repeat it for everybody. It's this, that at COP28 in Dubai in November, December, building on COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, building on COP26 in Glasgow, there is a real effort to get food systems and climate action converging at country level, at regional level, and globally. It's up to us. They're organizing a declaration that they want presidents to sign before they get to Dubai. Please get your president to sign it. It's a very straightforward declaration. It says, we are going to link together our food work and our climate work in our countries, and you're all doing it, but they want to bring it to the COP.
Just wanted to acknowledge that. Now, our host came, but we were very well welcome. And we know you had another engagement. We just had a fascinating discussion. I would like you just to give a chance to just add to it from your point of view. Your colleague did mention some of your achievements, but highlight 3 for us. I'm interested in what didn't work, and what are you learning, and how do you intend to take it to the next level in 3 minutes? I mean, you and I know each other. Over to you, Excellence.
Thank you very much, and you are all welcome to Tanzania. Karibuni. What did not work and what did we ignore is the real deal, and that's an environment. The threats to environment are real, and they have caused us a lot of challenges in our activity. Whatever the transformation on the food system we have been trying to do on agricultural sector, on the poverty alleviation, and all those efforts. But I think for some time, ourselves as a country and the entire African continent, even the world, we forgot to put on our equation the component of environment. And we have always been excited with what we call productivity. When we talk about productivity, we are talking about good seed, fertilizer, extension. Everyone is pumping the effort in those areas. But we forgot environment. We forgot about the soil, which is the important component in the equation. So thanks to the global discussion, and thanks to our leaders, and thanks to the declaration in Nairobi, and we give commitment as a Tanzania, our presidency will be part of the declaration and commitment, and Tanzania will be part of that in the committing our effort toward food transformation without forgetting the component of environment as a key driver. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellence. Thank you. I mean, you remember last year we had an issue. You were ignoring me but I really love the fact that you are emphasizing what did work, what we forgot. And huge opportunity now to build from that, learning from what happened in this room. So before going back to the chair and to David to move to the next session, just want to start it off with our leaders reminding us the journey from Maputo to Malabo to Dakar to Sharm el-Sheikh and next to United Arab Emirates. And the huge challenges that we face, and I'm glad that you mentioned environment and the fact that we need to build something at the nexus between environment, technologies, and people. I think we heard from the experience with the many innovation and effort. One of the common sense things that I heard is there is no blueprint in this business. We all share the challenge, but each country in their own way are trying to get there. But the opportunity, how can we learn? Your focus on innovation, political commitment, public-private partnership, putting youth at center stage and women, inclusivity, but also being humble. I really like that idea that we didn't get it right, because then we have an opportunity to learn and grow. So with that, I think we are on a good path to take on the challenge that told us. Are we fit for purpose? Are we? What do we need to change in our tools, in our processes? How do we collaborate and cooperate to take up that challenge? David.
Thank you very much indeed, Fadal. We're now going into short inputs from development partners, and it's with great pleasure that I invite Jenny Moffitt, who is Undersecretary, Marketing and Regulatory Programs in the United States Department of Agriculture, it says there, but in my briefing notes it said something else. I hope I got it right. Jenny, we are kind of focusing on something where the United States has really taken a leadership role. The AIM for Climate initiative has been mentioned by Minister Almeri. I hope that you can pick up on that one as well as the many other things you'll say in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David, and to all of your excellencies for this incredible dialogue and conversation. I just want to commend the government of Tanzania for an incredible summit and conversation, as well as, of course, AGRA for hosting this as well. You talked about the road to COP28, and the road to COP28, as you acknowledge, has built on the previous COPs and the importance of connecting to really critical issues of our time, which is climate and food security and food systems transformation. And that nexus I think we all know and acknowledge and see in our own countries and our own communities how important that nexus is together. So David, you asked about of course, the aim for climate. This is an announcement that the United States government with UAE launched at COP26. And the road and the pathway that has gone on so far, we have over 500 partners for AIM for Climate, which includes 6 government partners in Africa, as well as government partners and private sector partners, such as many who are around this table, coming together, investing in innovation, investing in partnerships, investing in sprints so that we can really focus on and sprint to different innovations. So we encourage those who have not joined to certainly join on for the AIM for Climate partnership. I want to just reflect on, and David, you did a great summary of what we heard from around the table. I want to reflect on a couple of things that I heard and the partnerships that U.S. government has been able to make. And first off, I just want to say that we at U.S. have been long committed to the work here in Africa, and certainly underscored that work last year when President Biden convened the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit last December. And at that summit, President Biden and the African Union charted a pathway that we are now working on toward a U.S.-Africa Union food security partnership for long-term sustainability for food security. This is a pathway and a document and a really an agenda. The holistic need for systems approach is really critical. U.S. has a long history and track record of approaching it from a systems approach and hearing what's needed in the community. We just heard about there's no one blueprint. It's really a blueprint that needs to be modified based on the needs of farmers, smallholder farmers, and investing in the land as well as the people who are working the land. And as a farmer myself, I know how important that is, and the longstanding partnerships are critical. So we've invested in framing out and building out the cashew production in West Africa with that $183 million of U.S. investment in cashew production, starting with one country in Africa, in West Africa, and building now out to 9 different countries. That investment has now generated over $180 million in revenue for 193 smallholder farmers. We've got examples like that going on all around the country and not just the countries in West Africa, but across the continent. I'll just stop by saying 2 things. We have big announcements that we're making today as far as our investments here in Africa and around not just around the continent, but around the globe. As we talk about productivity, 30 to 80% of our crops are lost due to plant pest risks. And so today we're really excited to be able to announce our partnership with the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, IPPC, a partnership for Africa Phytosanitary Program that is being launched this month through the IPPC. In addition, on the animal health side, making sure we're maximizing productivity on animal health as well, we're investing $17 million in partnership with the World Organization for Animal Health that will work globally, particularly here in Africa, on supporting and building the animal health infrastructure. So we've got a longstanding history of partnership in Africa, and we continue to do even more here.
Can we have a big hand for Jenny? I mean, it's always really cool when we get these announcements, and particularly when the announcements are so relevant to what we're focusing on. Thank you also for making all the connections. Ladies and gentlemen, our co-chair, Nardos Bekele-Thomas, is going to leave in 15 minutes. And when Nardos leaves, then Honourable Minister Bashe will serve as our chair. Nardos, before you go, I hope you'll catch our eye and just say a few words on your reflections. Would you mind doing that? Okay, fine, thank you. So now we go to Melinda Bohannon, who is from the United Kingdom Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, where she's Director General on Development and Humanitarian Action. You have the floor, Melinda.
Thank you, David. Your Excellencies, I wanted to say 4 things, if I may. The first is how rare it is to have the opportunity to sit here and simply listen. And listening to the context as you describe it has been absolutely fantastic to hear the range of issues and the complexity of the challenges as you see them. We as international officials, as donors, should be doing much, much more of that. I have heard strongly the importance of the system solution that you describe. I fully agree the importance of making sure that we have coherence across the sectors, from food systems through to climate change and much more besides. And we're talking today about the interrelationship between food systems and climate at the COP. I would go even further than that and say that these issues come together across summits, the G20, the annual meetings of the MDBs, the SDG summit, and progress across the Sustainable Development Goals, and so forth. It's that level that we should be thinking when we're thinking about policies that we have to respond to these challenges. The second is, what have I heard you say? I've heard you talk about the actions that you're taking in the context that you face. I've heard from you and from everybody else about the importance of leadership, systems leadership, policy leadership, and political leadership. And I've heard about the importance of coherence and complementarity, policy coherence, but also your leadership in making sure that we as supporting actors are coherent in how we're helping and providing the capability that you need. The third thing is the so what. For the UK, as you know, we have multiple programs and initiatives that span the range of issues that we've been talking about. Not only our work on agriculture, smallholder farming, aggregation, also the work on regional trade, on women's economic empowerment, our humanitarian work, and our work on research and innovation. And I wanted to emphasize that, like you across all of this, our challenge is to see through the individual program components into the system solution that we want to see. Our investment instruments span the likes of British Investment International, our work through the multilateral banks and the Rome agencies, various multiple programs we have on climate change and the environment, on economic development and trade. So behind everything we've talked about today, we are thinking very hard in the context of our food security strategy and our development offer about how to get the linkage between all these instruments right, so that we're working along the value chain, but importantly linking that to international openness and trade and so on. I'd like to emphasize 2 things. Firstly, the importance of working at the continental level. It has already been said, engaging in the post-Malabo process, supporting the African Community Free Trade Area Secretariat and member states on implementation, but also secondly, working at the regional level on market shaping to improve regional trade and competitiveness as we think about the integration of small-scale farmers. So a small example of this, the work we do to support COMESA and the EAC to scale up on agriculture, the work that we've done to support the ECOWAS Rice Observatory to bring coherence into how we boost regional rice productivity and trade to improve regional rice self-sufficiency. Those 2 levels, working at the continental level and working at the level of regional trade, we see as transformational in the way that we support this agenda. Thanks, David.
Thank you very much indeed. Just both these inputs from development partners that we heard, building on also what we heard from Minister from Norway, just show the alignment of what the development partners are offering with what the ministers are really identifying as their challenges. Thank you for the care with which you've done that. We now go to Cristina Duarte, who was referred to by Nardos as the person who's really leading for the UN in Africa. Cristina, you have the floor, 3 minutes.
Africa will have lost $249 million. Preparing for this conference, I did a very funny exercise. I went back to the 80s. I read a report from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000 and 2010. They all say the same. All say the same. No access to markets, no access to inputs, deficit in infrastructure investment, you name it. So I do believe that on the other side, we know that Africa is off track. I do recognize the government attempt to address the challenge, but at the end of the day, so Africa is off track from a food system standpoint. The required pace is not happening. Is not happening. Just to tell you another number, on an annual basis, 35 million new people reach the continent. So the demographics tell us that the gap is not decreasing, the gap is increasing. So I do believe that we need to search and research outside agro-food systems. What is the problem? Because the problem is not there. It's outside agro-food systems. And why I start with the $249 million? Because the problem is on the means of implementation. All the ministers that spoke here, I can guarantee you, they know very well what needs to be done. There is no lack of vision, there is no lack of strategy, and there is no lack of planning. What is failing is means of implementation. And addressing means implementation means that you need to leave the food systems perimeter and go, please, and I will try to finish here. We need to understand Africa's financing for development paradox. We need to stop that. Otherwise, in 10 years, we'll be having this same conversation. Africa loses $500 billion on an annual basis. I can provide you the breakdown. I have the numbers. This same continent is begging for ODA, debt reliefs, and debt suspensions. This is a paradox that needs to be broken. We cannot continue. In this paradox, we'll never find the $76 billion that the Minister of Agriculture in this room needs to address what the UK representative just said, to approach the food system's value chain in an holistic way, tackling all the issues as the Minister of Emirates just gave us an example that they did in your country. So and this is my last sentence, Sir David. If Africa loses $500 billion, sorry, this is what I used to say to my students. I can only use this mobile phone if I have it. If I don't have it, I cannot lose it. So if Africa loses $500 billion, means that Africa has the capacity to generate up $500 billion in terms of economic and financial flows. Africa has not the ability to mobilize them. What is the missing piece between generating, having the capacity to generate, but not having the capacity to mobilize? Allow me, in my opinion, of course, open to disagreements, weak institutions. Weak institutions. And I stop here. Thank you.
When I first met Christina, it was something I really noticed. This is somebody who is passionate about the issues. Thank you for sharing your passion. And I thought it might be nice if I go after you and invite, where is he? Martin van Nieuwkoop, who's representing the president of the World Bank here at this meeting, to react. But Martin, I've only got about a minute, so if you could do it in a truncated way, that would be great.
Well, thank you very much, David. I think the good news here is that in face of all the challenges that we've heard, I think there's really a consensus that global food systems transformation is urgently needed. I think that's a very good outcome. But as you said, there is no blueprint for it. Each country is unique, needs to find its own pathways. But we in the bank also think there are kind of common enablers that all countries can take into account when they define their pathways. And those enablers are, one, getting the incentives right. Making sure that the private sector and farmers have the right incentives, to invest in climate resilient agriculture. And there's a lot of public support going around that can be used for that purpose. accelerating innovation. The minister already spoke about it, aim for climate. That's even more important because agriculture is already in uncharted territory because the global temperatures in the world are now higher than they were when we started doing agriculture 10,000 years ago. Scaling private sector investments. The minister from Norway mentioned de-risking mechanisms. I think those can go a long way. Strengthening institutions, I mean, that will be the fourth enabler, particularly since food systems are a multi-sectoral concept and therefore require collaboration across the various ministries. How can the World Bank help? Four things. One, we are providing resources to do the analytics upstream. I mean, to get the evidence for governance. I mean, to get the right policies in place. That's one. Second, we are, with the help of UK, organizing policy dialogues for senior policy makers to learn from each other. This is not an easy process, so we can go faster when we work together. So that's two. Third, we're providing grants, seed money for countries actually to start putting in place the right policies for effective food systems transformation. We've already done so and provided $75 million to Mozambique, Malawi, Madagascar, Ghana, and Bangladesh. And finally, when countries are ready to implement at scale, for all countries that are willing to do so, the World Bank will make the resources available to do it. We did it yesterday, where we launched the Food Systems Resilience Program in Tanzania, mobilizing $1.4 billion of the government resources, and the bank putting $300 million in for a very sector-wide program, because food systems is a comprehensive concept, so we need comprehensive programs, not itsy-bitsy little projects. So all countries, all ministers, if you want to go at scale, the bank is there to work with you in making it happen, like we did in Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, very much. And look, we're running short of time, but I did want to invite Roger Voorhees of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, fantastic friend of the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa. But can you do it in less than a minute, Roger?
Almost never, David. But at your request, look, three things. One, I'm really humbled by what I've heard today and the commitment made by the ministers here, both to recover, to regenerate, and to act. And the recovery from conflict, COVID, and now climate, as we've heard. On the regenerate, the focus on soils, the focus on intensive systems and productivity that need to cooperate with natural systems. And then on the act, that's where I'd push us all. The aspiration for climate, the aspiration for climate adaptation, for productivity is great, but it's got to change from an aspiration to an actual investment plan that delivers results for low-income farmers on the ground. Investment in agriculture has twice the economic mobility out of poverty that any other investment has, and it's going to take innovation. R&D innovation returns 10 to 1 of economic value, and unless we do that, we will not see the great mobility out of poverty that Africa needs to have. We have had 2 of them in my lifetime. In North Asia, in South Asia, the greatest number of people have come out of poverty in the history of the planet. And it's time for Africa to be that third wave of poverty reduction, but it happens not with us, but with all of you, and we stand ready to partner.
I wanted to invite at least a private sector person who's in the room to just have a say, and still trying to stretch the time a bit. We want to catch as many of you as possible. And so this is Sven Tori Holsetta, who is the leader of the Yara company. Would you like just a couple of minutes on your commitment and how you're doing it?
Well, thanks, David. When I have so many important people in the same room, I will use this opportunity to make a plea to all of you. I'm in the fertilizer industry, and in the last 2-3 years now, fertilizer has really come to the top of the agenda worldwide. But my message is that fertilizer is not fertilizer. It needs to be tailored to the needs of the plants, and they need a balanced nutrition. And David, you're a medical doctor, and imagine if you were only to be fed 2 nutrients, maybe 3, what would happen to your health? And it's the same thing with plants, that they need more nutrition and the right one. If not, we risk doing more harm than good, that we're acidifying soil, making it incapable of absorbing nutrients. And the goodness is, when we get fertilization right and we put the right nutrients in place, we get a healthy soil. And with a healthy soil, it's more resistant to climate change. It can take heat better, drought better, flood better. And by the way, you get a more nutritious food from the soil as well. So you get so much at once. But then my plea here is, please make the subsidy programs to support healthy soils, make donations and financing available to support the farmers, and we will see tremendous increases. And we saw, just by going from 2 nutrients to 5 nutrients, doubling the yields in the first season. We have solutions, but we need to do this together, and we can do that now. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Now, there are a lot of people from many businesses that support agriculture in this room. And I'd like, on behalf of all of us, to acknowledge all the fertilizer input and other company representatives who are here. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. There are also many partners in this room. There's science partners, there's nutrition partners, and there's partners who are leading fabulous groups like the Committee on World Food Security. Thank you all for being here, for being part of this, for contributing to it. Thank you to the businesses. Thank you to Binta, the Agra board member, for being here. Thank you for sharing everything that's important to us and you in this moment. And thank you to Alliance Delphine for being here as well. Now, we don't have much time left, and I'm handing back to Fadel because we go into the closing sequence. Fadel, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, David. It's been a privilege. I try to be the nice guy, you the bad guy, but I guess I'd be in trouble if I don't give a chance to the Honorable Lisuba to say one word. One. Appreciate you and acknowledge.
Thank you very much. This is a very difficult endeavor for a politician. I can speak in English. I think it's easier. Je vous en prie. I will echo the comments that have just been uttered by Mrs. Bonin, to say that it's been a privilege to listen today, to hear some of the amazing things happening, very encouraging. I will say a word to what was said at the very beginning about the coherence. This is something we, as members of parliament, are trying to work towards, helping to build that coherence, when it comes to policy making, because what we find is that at this level, there is much convergence on what needs to be done, but when we go down to the daily policy making, when we go down to the level of national policies, that is where all the divergence and all the real politics and realities of daily practicalities come to the fore. So we as parliamentarians feel that we have a role, and we would appreciate your support in this respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my brother. And you did in 1 minute. Allow me to acknowledge my other brother, Usman Bajan. People don't think that we are actually 2 people, but we don't realize that we are bigger than. But so our colleague MP from Congo Brazzaville. That was you. Thank you.
So, can I just, Fadel...
Your English was so perfect that I thought you were from another planet.
He's brilliant. Anyway. Can I just come here and acknowledge the Rockefeller Foundation, who've been an absolutely massive contributor to everything. Roy Steiner, representing the foundation, but here with a good team. Thank you very much. And I believe the IKEA Foundation is somewhere in the room. Here you are, Marilla. Thank you very much indeed for all you're doing. So joining with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, there's this fabulous philanthropic support that is really appreciated. Now, back to you.
Yeah. So, Excellence, I have to apologize for, coming to you at this stage now. I think we came, we listened to the brief, we got the vision, we have the account, we know the opportunities and the challenges. So now up to you to tell us from the point of view of how the NEPAD, how do you see us moving forward? Over to you, Excellence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, my job keeps on changing from one to the other as I go on. But in any case, I was asked to do a wrap up and closing. Is that, yeah. But I would like to share it with the host minister also, so we would co-close in a way. First of all, honorable participants, all of you, all protocols observed, it's a profound, really privilege for me to deliver the wrap-up message today, and which, the discussions was filled with insights, lots of insight. It was insightful and enlightening discussion. So, before I delve into the key takeaways from these critical conversations, allow me to share my own reflection on the events that have taken place over the last week. I say over the last week because we are coming also from a very insightful discussion in Nairobi. From the bustling streets of Nairobi to the vibrant tapestry of Dar es Salaam throughout the week, we have engaged in dialogues that illuminate the path forward for our beloved continent. The resounding messages echoing from every corner of Africa is truly crystal clear. From government officials to our esteemed development partners, from the dynamic private sector to the tireless champions of civil society, and above all, our youth, the future and the present, the heartbeat of our future, our voices unite as one. Africa is a nation rising against all odds. We are rewriting our narrative, one that has too often been overshadowed by the paradox of plenty, where abundance coexisted with deprivation. Today, we stand united, acknowledging that this narrative should change and is changing. Africa is awakening to the realization that we possess not only the resources, but the resilience, innovation, and indomitable willpower to overcome the challenges. We are the architects of our destiny, and we should be the architects of our own destiny. Yet, as we celebrate our progress, growth, and development, we must not turn a blind eye to the shadows cast by our failures. And we need, like my sister from the UN said, address it boldly and with total determination. Excellencies, the harsh reality is that we still have 280 million of our fellow Africans hungry, representing 20% of our population. Forecasts predict that this number will only swell as the ravages of climate change, escalating conflicts, terrorism, and external factors continue to undermine our food systems. We all agree that the potential social and economic consequences of these are nothing short of catastrophic if we do not take decisive measures to alleviate this hunger. We also agree that building a resilient and inclusive food system hinges on our ability to reverse the high rates of land degradation and rejuvenate the health of our soils. We recognize that addressing the multitude challenges is an urgent imperative. We commit to transform our food systems, encouraging that every African has access to adequate, safe, and nutritious food at all times. This stands as the paramount goal of our continent. We commit to achieve this goal while assuring prosperity to our diligent farmers, especially the women who make up the majority of those who work the land, while also generating economic opportunities for our vibrant youth. Simultaneously, we must safeguard and rejuvenate our lands, forests, aquatic systems, and other vital ecosystems. The unwavering commitment to this goal has been voiced resoundingly by the highest echelons of our governments, by a multitude of stakeholders, and by our own communities. The Common Africa Position on Food Systems, presented at the 2021 UN Food Systems Summit, epitomizes this unwavering commitment. However, this has already been integrated in the comprehensive Africa Agriculture Program, the CAADP, the regional investment plans that were derived from the CAADP, the national investment plans that were also derived from the regional one. There is total coherence. And we need to really not reinvent the wheel. We need to really work through these comprehensive frameworks to secure the transformation of our food systems, our DANEPAD, my organization, which is the umbrella body of the development agencies in the continent, okay, works tirelessly with AGRA and member states, aligning regional and national plans with this vital framework and forging pathways into actionable, investable interventions. Let's work together within the same framework. To date, our engagements with member states and other stakeholders have concretized pathways for food systems transformation with far-reaching impacts on production systems, food marketing, processing, value addition, reduction of post-harvest losses, intra-regional trade, food quality, safety, and the management of our precious natural and agro ecosystems. In several African nations, the integrated strategic management of food systems, public and private, taking into account the multi-sectoral nature of these food systems, has been recognized. And considering, for example, the examples that have come out from Rwanda, from Ethiopia, I know from Uganda because I worked on the food systems in the 1990s, where a holistic approach to agriculture and food systems transformation has not only boosted food production, but also improved nutrition and raised income. Similarly, we heard Ethiopia has employed a strategic management of food systems, including innovative strategies to combat land degradation and enhance soil health, resulting in increased crop yields and food security. As I said, Uganda's experience in really creating that domestic investment and making sure that the financial system in the country works for the people is a very remarkable achievement. Through the Grow Africa initiative, our organization, our DANEPAD, has supported 12 countries: Benin, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Malawi, Nigeria, Mozambique, Rwanda, Senegal, and Tanzania, in accelerating private sector investment in agriculture and food security. And most importantly, by making sure that we build the skills of the young ones coming out of the university and delivering on commitments set by heads of states to make sure that we promote agribusiness. The expansion of our economy and is very important, but we can only expand our economy if we also put as many stakeholders in the economy. So the youth integration in agribusiness is critical and very important. These successes and these success stories that we have heard demonstrate the potential that exists within our continent when we align our efforts and channel our determination towards a common goal. They also highlight the critical link between food system transformation and our ongoing battle against climate change. In an increasingly unpredictable global climate, resilient and sustainable food systems, in an increasingly unpredictable global climate, resilient and sustainable food systems are not just a matter of survival. They are the bedrock of our progress. Our duty extends far beyond the declaration of continental resolutions. We must bring these commitments home, mobilize resources to support implementation, rally technical expertise, and cultivate the partnership essential for progress. As the Development Agency of Africa, we have already initiated preparations to review all our instruments and policies and compacts that are really fragmented, and there are many, in light of the demands of not only today, but tomorrow, the demand of the future. This exercise will also take into account to support our member states and stakeholders in swiftly transitioning to the implementation of resolutions stemming from this forum. We believe that early action is paramount to mainstreaming momentum, heightening commitment at the highest levels of government, catalyzing systemic changes, and showcasing swift victories and best practices in supporting farmers and investing in soil health. Excellencies, the consequences of inactions are grave, and the stakes could not be higher. Urgent and decisive actions to address the issue in a holistic manner, bringing all the actors, is imperative to translate our noble intentions into meaningful investments, mostly domestic, that fortify the resilience of our food systems. Our collective efforts to address these multifaceted crises and cultivate resilient food systems are needed now more than ever. Together, united in our purpose, we shall prevail and build a brighter future for Africa. So I will add to what my partner from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation said on the Recover, Regenerate, and Act. But I would also say recognition of our failures is really a solution. 50% of our problem would be resolved by just recognizing our failures. And today we have really underscored our deficiencies, our failures, but now what is left is the 50% to act. And when we act, we need to make sure that we have a coordinated effort, and we need to act taking into account and leveraging on digital transformation and digital solutions, as my sister, Minister of UAE, has indicated. It is, to me, very important, that we have all these partners here. But what really is very critical and very important for us is to coordinate and work together within one continental, regional, and national framework. Our job is to make sure that these frameworks are harmonized. And this is what we are trying to do, and this is what we are embarked on. I'm glad that the regional economic community from EAC is here. We're working with the regional economic communities, understanding that the regional economic communities are our pillars. We have come out with one comprehensive program framework that will lead us into the implementation of the 10-year implementation plan. And this is a milestone for Auda NEPAD to work with the 8 regional economic communities to sit down and say these are our priorities is very critical. And these regional economic communities programs are aligned to the development plans of the countries, meaning that our regional investment plan, for example, when it comes to food systems, is really totally, the national investment plans are aligned to the regional investment plans, and the regional investment plan aligned to the continental investment plan. This would make our development partners work very easy, because whatever you put in the national investment plans are taken into account at the regional level and the continental level and recognized. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute honor to hear the summary statement of Nados Bekele Thomas, the Chief Executive Officer of the African Union Development Agency. From my perspective, it is a remarkable synthesis of actually everything that we've been discussing this morning, but also a brilliant springboard for the next leap forward, which particularly is going to focus, I'm sure, on partnerships, as has been said, on financing, on youth, and most importantly, on getting everything we can in place to adapt to climate change. I just want to personally to say what an honor it's been to have been with you in this session, to have been working with Fidel. Thank you very much indeed. and back to Fidel, who's going to say a word or two, and then we will have closing remarks within the next 10 minutes from Government of Tanzania, because we need to be out by 12 o'clock.
Thank you, David. Your Excellencies, before moving to the final closure, just to share a few lessons from me from this experience. And interestingly, they all start with the letter C. One is cooperation, collaboration, convergence, coherence, and COP28. With that, Your Excellence, it was a pleasure serving you, and you have the floor for the final statement. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, honored to be given a chance to talk a little bit about what is going on here. I'm the Minister for Livestock and Fisheries of the United Republic of Tanzania. So I'm happy to be given this chance. So in a nutshell, let me talk of the sector, and mainly you'll talk of the livestock in a broad context of environmental issues. So we have about 77 million number of heads. This is opportunity if we talk of food security to our people, as far as we do not import beef from any part of the world. So, but again, you can see this is mainly owned by primary producers. So even though it is an opportunity, but again, you can see it is a challenge to environment. The carbon emission, but again, we can see in the land degradation. So what we're doing in the country, we look after making a strong secondary producers. So to offtake this big number of animals from our villages and from our primary producers. That we think that is one way of maybe having a good number of animals that can be more productive. So the second action that we are taking as a government is to make sure we improve the breed. So after off-taking of the animals, the next stage is to encourage our people to buy the better breed, and maybe this is going to reduce the big number, but having a small number that can comprise of the better breed and better productivity. So we are serious with that, so that to make sure that we are in line with the food security, but again with the climate issues. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, let me thank you, everyone. I think at the end, on the presidential summit, we will have final declaration of the statement which will be issued as a position of the Minister of Agriculture from the African continent, and it will be read later on today in the evening. And the lunch is ready at Ruaha. So we'll go and get a good lunch. But let me conclude by saying few things. 2050, the world will have a population of over 9 billion people. Africa will have over 2 billion people. Productivity will be going down. And the reason is only one item: environmental threat. This is the biggest issue in our equation. Talking about environment, talking about food system transformation, talking about food security, food sovereignty, all these will end up to be stories on the papers and the likes if we don't do two things. One, a poor person in my village, when he or she wakes up in the morning, the first priority thing is to fill the stomach. The second priority thing is to fill the pocket. So if we fail to align the transformation we are doing in the agricultural sector, food system, and the effort on the environment with the wealth creation to the poor people, we will be wasting our time. And to attain that, we need a true and transparent system on the global infrastructure of financing. This has to be a discussion globally, how we allocate resources, where are we allocating resources, and what are the bottom lines. If we will not do that, we'll go COP28. We are from Dakar, we were in Nairobi, today we are here, tomorrow we'll be hosted to our sister. The issue here is how we connect environment, economic wealth creation, food system transformation, poverty reduction, and keep the youth of this continent and the world at the center of all this transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Close.
Thank you.
The
Thanks
session
to
is closed, so
everybody.
let's go eat.
Thanks to everybody who helped make this a really remarkable event. Thank you.